Welcome back to my YouTube channel, which is all about GCSE Biology exam preparation made fun and easy. Hi, I am Sharoon Daniel and today I will continue with the foundational level paper 2 past paper questions. If you like my content, please like, share and subscribe to my channel for more content and resources. So far we have already discussed question 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and today together we will unlock the rest of the questions 7, 8 and 9 and their parts, as we are working through an AQA GCSE Biology Foundation tier paper. Here we will break down the answers according to the mark scheme criteria, along with some strategic tips to help you maximize your marks. So let's begin with question 7, which deals with the ecosystems and classification concepts and their understanding. Examiner is not only checking how much you know but also how well you utilize the knowledge you possess. So let's start with first part of question 7, which is 7.1 on first slide, and the examiner asks you question: what name is given to all of the organisms living in the same habitat? The answer to this question is A, community. Let me give you an exam tip: don't confuse population, one species, with community, all species. Ecosystem includes the non-living, abiotic. Part 2. Moving on to next question part, which is 7.2 on the slide, and question asks you to which species in figure 12 do scientists think are most closely related? The answer to this taxonomic and evolutionary question is brambling and chaffinch. Exam tip: look at the Latin names. Both are in the genus Fringilla. Species in the same genus are more closely related than those in different genera. Using the figure 12 next question part 7.3, examiner expect you to show your deeper understanding of taxonomy and evolutionary biology and asks you what evidence is used to classify the brambling and the bullfinch as different species. The answer to this question is the brambling and the bullfinch cannot breed together to give fertile offspring. Let me give you an important exam tip. This is the biological definition of a species. Even if they look different or eat different things, the gold standard for separate species is the inability to produce fertile offspring. Moving on to next slide, where figure 13 is given, and if you read this graphical illustration of number of 4 bird species A, B, C and D distributed throughout the year starting from January to December months living in same habitat of UK. Now, keeping the information in view of the trends on the graph, examiner test your data analysis, evaluation and interpretation skills. So let's begin with question 7.4. Describe what happens to the number of birds of species A during the year. Remember, it's a 3 marks question, so answer should be in 3 parts, so the answer is like that. And 1. The population is stable constant from January to April. 2. There is a large increase peak in May-June. 3. The population decreases from July and stays at a lower, constant level from October onwards. Exam tip: when a question says describe what happens, try to mention specific months or trends: increase, decrease, plateau, to get all the marks. This question also requires the data from figure 13, so the next part, which is 7.5, asks you which species had the lowest resistance to the disease, and the answer is species B. Let me give you an exam tip. Lowest resistance means the population dropped the most or stayed the lowest after the disease hit in June-July. On the graph, B's line drops and stays flat. Last question, which is 7.6, also use the information from figure 13 and asks you which species migrates between the UK and other countries. Give a reason. Answer to this question is species D. Reason: it is only present in the UK for part of the year, May to September, and its number is 0 for the rest of the year. Let's start next question 8, which is about the eye and reaction time. Human eye is an evolutionary marvel, and our photosensitive organ gives us greater advantages since the dawn of our rise as species, and AQA examiner expect you to know about eye and its structure and function. So let's look at the next slide and answer the question 8.1, which term describes the adjustment of focus from the distant object to the near object? Answer is accommodation. Eye's ability to adjust its focus. Let me give you an exam tip. Memorize this definition. Adaptation usually refers to evolution or light levels, while myopia is short-sightedness. Next question is about structure or anatomy of human eye, and figure 14 shows labeling of its various important parts, and keeping this figure in view, the question 8.2 asks you to answer which structure in figure 14 is where the image is focused. Answer B. The retina. Exam tip: the retina is the light-sensitive layer at the back of the eye. Similar to 0.82 question, this question also requires you to use figure 14 band. The question 8.3 asks you which structure in figure 14 is a muscle that contracts when focusing on a near object, and the answer is E. Ciliary muscle. Next question also requires you to use figure 14 of human eye anatomy section diagram, and the question 8.4 asks you what happens to the shape of the lens when focusing on a near object. Answer: it becomes thicker, more curved, more convex. Exam tip: to focus on something close, the lens needs to fatten up to refract, bend the light rays more strongly. Next question 8.5 describe how muscles in the iris help the person to see clearly when moving from a dimly lit area to a brightly lit area. Answer: the circular muscles contract and the radial muscles relax, which makes the pupil smaller, constricts. Exam tip: this is a reflex action to protect the retina from damage by limiting the amount of light entering the eye. Examiner in your GCSE not only check your scientific knowledge and memory recall alone, but also your scientific thinking and understanding of how to devise investigations independently or accompanied. So next question is all about your scientific approach. So the question 8.6 asks you to plan an investigation to test the effect of drinking coffee on reaction time. Answer: 1. Test. Use the ruler drop test. Hold a ruler above the volunteer's hand and drop it. Record the cm marked where they catch it. 2. Procedure. Measure the reaction time before drinking coffee. 3. Variable. Give the person the set volume of coffee and wait a specific amount of time. For example, 10 mins. 4. Validity. Repeat the test and calculate a mean. Keep the person, the hand used, and the starting height of the ruler the same. Use a control group who drinks decaf or water to ensure the effect isn't just due to practice. Now let's move on to the last question of this foundation level paper 2 past paper of year 2023, and the question 9 is all about reproduction and genetics concepts, and examiner checks your understanding of command words and scientific knowledge. So let's begin with first question, which is 9.1, and first question goes like this: suggest one advantage of growing tomato plants that are genetically different. The command word suggest is to give a scientific fact about the plant, so the answer is increased chance of survival if there is a change in the environment, for example, a new disease or climate change. Exam tip: variation is the insurance policy of a species. Again, next question 0.92 also asks you to suggest an advantage of growing tomato plants that are genetically identical, and the answer is all plants will have the same desirable characteristics, for example, same taste, size, or ripening time, which is better for supermarket sales. This a great memory recall question and your understanding of it. The question 9.3 asks you what is tissue culture. Answer: growing new plants from small groups of cells, or a small piece of plant taken from the parent plant, using a growth medium like agar. Another example of concept of genetics being asked by AQA examiners is this question 9.4, which asks you to give one reason why genetically identical plants do not all grow to the same height. Answer: environmental factors, for example, different amounts of light, water, or mineral ions. Here exam let me give an exam tip: phenotype equals genotype plus environment. Even clones look different if they aren't fed the same. Let's move on to next slide, and here if you see the statement that sex determination of dogs is carried out by X and Y chromosomes same way in humans. Next question is simple ratio determination of next generation of dogs. In question 9.5 it asks you to complete the Punnett square for sex inheritance. Answer: top, female, X and X. Side, male, X and Y. Boxes, XX, XX, XY, XY. Exam tip: always use capital letters as shown in the prompt, keeping the figure 15 in mind and the result of it from question 0.95. The next question 9.6 asks you why would you expect 3 male and 3 female offspring. Let's take a look at Punnett square and see how probability of maleness and femaleness is determined, and the answer is, as you could see, there is a 50%, or 1 in 2, probability of being male-female for each offspring. Exam tip: the ratio in the Punnett square is 2, which simplifies to 1, 1. After that, let's move on to next slide and take a look at the graphical representation of the scientific investigation on 2 varieties of chickens, A and B. Graph shows both varieties for meat production in 5 weeks time and eggs laid per month. Examiner here checks your deeper understanding of concepts such as variables during an investigation. So let's read the question 9.7, which asks you to suggest 2 control variables the farmer should have used in this investigation. 2 marks. And the answer is 1. The type amount of food given to the chickens. Answer 2. The temperature of the environment or the age of the chickens. Exam tip: A control variable is something you keep the same to ensure a fair test. In biology, always think about environmental factors, light, water, food, or the physical characteristics of the subject's age, health. Now let's move on to next slide and read question 9.8. By keeping figure 15 in mind, let's answer the question. Give the reason the farmer used a large number of chickens. 1 mark. Answer: to make the results more representative, or to reduce the effect of anomalies outliers. Exam tip: avoid saying to make it a fair test or to make it accurate. The exam board specifically looks for terms like representative, reliable, or to calculate a more accurate mean. Now let's address the last question of this last paper, where farmers wanted to produce new varieties of chicken which are good in both traits, meat and eggs. The data in figure 15 is the baseline for your scientific understanding, and here you are, required to show your skill of selective breeding under the umbrella of genetic studies. The question 9.9 asks you to describe how selective breeding of chicken varieties A and B can produce the new variety of chicken. Note it is 4 marks question, hence the answer should be in 4 steps. So the step 1. Select the chickens from variety A that produce the most eggs and the chickens from variety B that have the fastest growth, highest meat production.